don't worry, we'll get you a replacement. All right. So my friend ended the call and dropped the. So I said, so what's going to happen? He said, don't worry yourself now. Shebi, we're here. They will bring a replacement. I said, they will bring a replacement. He said, yes. I said, they won't even try to check whether it was your fault, because it could have been your fault. Maybe you didn't do something well about the first. No, it can't be his fault. Now, Shebi is a brand new item that he bought. While we were still talking, in fact, I'm not even sure it was up to 30 minutes or so, we had a knock on the door. He himself said he must be the.
Hello beautiful people, good morning. Welcome to Consumer Watchdog on ConsumerHallaTV. Your favorite consumer awareness show is on board right now, and this is where we educate consumers about their right and safety in Nigeria. I am Ire Hayomi Koleke. Thanks for always joining us always. On the program this morning, we have to look at something very important, which is consumer right to cancel advance booking reservations or orders, or let's say subject to reasonable charges. We all know that on this show we educate consumers about safety and right, and that is why we're looking into it, because that is a consumer right expressly, and it is well known, recognized under section 120 of the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Act 2018. So today on the show we'll be looking at consumer rights to cancellation. As consumers, do I have right to cancel? Do I even have right, and talking about cancellation, it happens a whole lot in Nigeria, whereby at the latter end it turns to issue where the manufacturer or the person rendering the service will say no refund, I'm not giving you back your funds and all of that. So we need to talk about it on the show because we need to create proper awareness. But before we go into the discussion, let's bring you consumer roundup news. And starting with the consumer roundup news, the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission has directed manufacturers, importers, distributors and retailers to review their inventories and withdraw consumer goods with misleading, deceptive or incomplete labels. The SCCPC says products without important information such as production and expiry dates, batch numbers, ingredient list and manufacturer details can put consumers at risk. Consumer can also advise, however, to carefully examine product labels before making purchases. Away from that, the SCCPC continue to intensify market surveillance and enforcement against products that fail to meet basic safety and quality standard. The Commission says poorly labeled and substandard product can expose consumer to health, safety and economic risk. And away from that news report, regulators continue to remind manufacturers and operators in the food and beverage sector that products placed on the market must comply with applicable safety, quality, and labeling requirements. For consumers, the message is simple: check the label, check the expiry date, and be cautious about products with incomplete or misleading information. Away from that news report, let's move to telecommunications sector. The cost of deploying telecommunications infrastructure remains an important consumer issue, particularly where charges associated with infrastructure deployment ultimately affects the cost and availability of broadband services. As Nigeria's digital economy expands, consumers are increasingly dependent on affordable and reliable internet service. And away from that, petrol consumption and changing consumer behavior, changes in petrol prices and transportation costs continue to influence consumer behavior and household spending. As consumers adjust to changing fuel prices, businesses and households are also reviewing their transportation and energy choices. And before we end the news today, Tuesday, 25 of August 2026 is a public holiday in Nigeria for Eid Malid. A consumer should therefore expect changes in the operating hours of some banks, public institutions and businesses with greater reliance on digital and self-service channels. And that is it on the Consumer Roundup News on Consumer Watchdog on ConsumerHallaTV. We're moving into the main discussion right now, where we give the proper awareness of right to cancellation in Nigeria. As consumer, it's very important for us to, sit tight and pay attention to the show, this beautiful morning. Let's go on a short break. We'll be right back. All right, thank you for still staying tuned. It's your favorite consumer awareness show, ConsumerHallaTV, where we inform, where we educate consumers about their rights and safety. I'm always saying it on the show that as consumers, we need to pay attention to our rights. Our right is valid. It's very, very important to know our rights so that we'll not be, maltreated out there when it comes to consuming or buying and selling of goods and services. So on the show this beautiful morning, the right to cancellation is what we're talking about. And in Nigeria, consumers sometimes make advance bookings, reservations or orders, and later discover that their plans have changed. All these things absolutely happen on a normal basis. So the important question is, can a business simply tell you you have paid so you cannot cancel? And the answer is not necessarily is not answerable. But under Section 120 of the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Act 2018, a consumer has the right to cancel an advance booking, reservation, or order subject to a reasonable cancellation charge. And we've seen cases whereby a lot of people, go online to make videos telling, explaining their plight on how, they booked an order and something happened and they had to cancel, and the fund they're telling them is not refundable. So that is why we have to talk about this, because it's important. It happens day in, day time. And what does the right to cancellation mean? And the right to cancellation means that a consumer can cancel an advance booking, reservation, or order before the transaction is completed, subject to the conditions provided by the law and the applicable terms of the transaction. And I'm giving you some example. You can canceling a hotel reservation made for future date. That happens a whole lot. Canceling a flight reservation, that had to happen. People cancel their flight due to unforeseen circumstances. Canceling a pre-order for furniture or another product. Canceling an advance booking for an event or service when it comes to maybe renting of hall for big days. But there is an important qualification. The right to cancel does not necessarily mean you will always receive every naira you paid back. And does that even mean that, am I not getting any money? That is why that is the reason why we have to educate you on the show this beautiful morning. According to the law allows a supplier or service provider to impose a reasonable cancellation charge. So this right exists because there are several reasons for consumer flexibility. And when we're talking about consumer flexibility, that has to do with changing of plan changes as time goes on. Sometimes it might be due to unforeseen circumstance. So a consumer may no longer be able to travel, attend an event or take delivery of an item. And this right also is being implemented because of fairness. The law recognizes that businesses should not have unlimited power simply because they have received advance payment. And this right is implemented for we, the consumers, because of transparency. Transparency is very, very important because we consumers should know the financial consequences of canceling before they commit their money. And this is important for online transactions, most importantly, where consumers may make booking without physically meeting the business. So now, what is a reasonable charge? Because earlier on, we told you what the law says. So this is what consumers need to pay attention to. The law does not prescribe a universal cancellation fee of 10%, maybe 50% out of the money, or 100%. Instead, the section 120 says a charge may be unreasonable if it exceeds a fair amount in the circumstances. Now, let's take that again according to the law. The section 120 says a charge may be unreasonable if it exceeds a fair amount in the circumstances. And that tell you that the law considers the factors including the nature of the good or services and how much notice the consumer gave before cancelling. That is very, very important. The notice you give before cancelling, and whether the business has a reasonable opportunity to find another customer. and the general practice of the relevant industry. So for example, cancelling a booking several weeks in advance may be very different from cancelling shortly before the service is due. And the important principle out of all this is that a cancellation charge should be fair and very, very reasonable, and not simply a punishment for changing your mind. That should not be a punishment for changing your mind. And can a business just write no refund? About that, a lot of consumers are always are very inquisitive to know that should I still patronize a brand, should I patronize a company or a product whereby I can see clearly that no refund, is that a red flag or something? So not automatically. A business may have cancellation and refund terms, but consumer rights under the FCCPA cannot simply be defeated by an unfair or unlawful notice. And the FCCPA itself states that consumers have the right to cancel advance booking or orders subject to reasonable charges. Subject to reasonable charges. And it also says that where a price or promotion restricts the right to refund, the consumer must be informed in writing. Talking about informed in writing, that is where this show comes in, Consumer Watchdog on ConsumerHallaTV, because we inform you about your right. We let you know about the rights that you are entitled to as a consumer, because a lot of people think as a consumers in Nigeria, we are not entitled to right, there is no right, and some people will even think we have the right, but the rights are not effective. I want to tell you that these things are effective and they work properly well. So consumers should always ask, what were the cancellation terms before I paid this? Before, even if you want to patronize a brand with no refund, you ask these questions, you meet with you have conversations, or you meet with the person in charge. What were the cancellation terms before I paid? And businesses should make those terms clear before transaction is concluded. Because I love the fact that some consumers in Nigeria are well educated. Before they make payment, they want to know all the the hooks and corners of that has to do with the product or the service they are purchasing, and they ask questions. But some vendors are always like, please don't ask much questions, I'm not a fraud, I can't go away with your money. It's beyond that. This thing is for clarity, so please let's be transparent with our clients in reference to the vendors. So what happens when the business fails to deliver? Even after seeking clarity about the terms and conditions of the no refund plan, or talking about you trying to cancel due to unforeseen circumstance. So this is different from a consumer simply changing their mind. So if a business accepts payment for a service or booking and then fails to provide what was agreed, the consumer may have separate rights to seek redress and a refund. Yes, even if you are buying from a vendor that says no refund, and the person is not giving you what you ordered. The situation of what I ordered versus what I got, we see them clearly every day on social media. So as a consumer, you should know that you have the right to redress, and you absolutely demand a refund. And the FCCPC has for example, taken action over a complaint concerning the airline tickets refunds where flights were cancelled by the service provider. So consumers should distinguish between I changed my mind and cancelled and I paid, but the business failed to provide what I paid for. Those are not necessarily treated in the same way. And how does cancellation work in different sectors? For airline, we see that a lot of people cancel their traveling, their due to unforeseen circumstance, maybe something impromptu happened and they need to attend to it in terms of emergency. So when it comes to airlines, airline cancellation and refund rights are governed by applicable aviation regulations and the condition attached to the ticket. So under the NCAA Part 19, it says the passenger who cancels a qualifying ticket reservation within 24 hours purchase may be entitled to refund. Yes, that's what the law says. And when the ticket was purchased at least 7 days before the scheduled departure, your fund will be refunded to you. And consumers should therefore check the specific fare conditions before purchase. It is very, very important that as consumers, even it's more beyond maybe product, goods that you want to consume or something. Even when it comes to services, it's also they are rendering the product to you in one way or the other. So you should always read. We should know that this is 2026, not 2006. We should be very, very careful with the way we do our things. So consumers should therefore check the specific fare conditions before purchasing. And when it comes to hotel cancellation policies vary. Yeah, it varies because hotel policies vary. Hotel A policy varies from hotel B. So some booking allow free cancellation up to a specified period before check-in, while late cancellation may attract a charge. So people might say, okay, you get your refund, but you're not getting the full refund. And some consumers do not even mind. So the important thing is that the terms should be made clear before payment. And for the e-commerce, for online purchases, consumers should check the seller's cancellation, delivery, and return terms. And if an order has already been dispatched, the process may be different from cancelling an order that has not yet been processed. And for events and tickets, maybe you want to you're planning to have your big day and you've booked an all or something like that. So event organizers may have specific cancellation and transfer condition, and consumers, we should check these conditions before purchasing, just like I said earlier. And where an organizer cancels an event or fails to provide the service purchase, different refund and redress issue may arise. That's another issue entirely. And for the subscriptions plan, a consumer should check the subscription cancellation and billing terms. It's important. And cancelling a subscription may stop future billing without unnecessary creating an automatic entitlement to a refund for a period already used. So as consumers, we have responsibilities to take, that is to protect ourselves, and that is we have to read the terms and conditions before paying. Absolutely. Even these vendors are always saying terms and conditions. So please, let's read these terms and conditions before making the payment, and do not wait until you want to when you want to cancel before looking for the cancellation policy. That is the first thing you should look out for. And ask questions before payment. If the cancellation terms are unclear, ask the business to vendor to explain them to you properly, and cancel as early as possible. Yes, giving the business more notice can reduce the potential loss associated with your cancellation. And cancel in writing where possible. Use your email, your app that you used to order the SMS or another channel that creates a record, and keep your evidence. It's very, very important to keep your evidence, your receipts, your evidence, the booking confirmations are your evidence, the payment records and copies of your communication with the business are your evidence. So you keep all of these things. And I know as consumers, questions might, some rhetorical questions might cross your mind, and they are not rhetorical questions to say that what if the business refuses to resolve the matter? So first, what you have to do is complain directly to the business and clearly explain what happened to them. You let them know that, okay, this thing was not planned, it's an impromptu, an emergency came up. You gave them explanation with some evidence too. So you give the business an opportunity to resolve the issue. And if the matter remains unsolved, consumer can escalate appropriate complaint to the FCCPC, the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission. Treat official complaint channels, including its complaint portal, and contact the fccpc.government.ng. And for sector-specific complaints, consumer may also need to approach the relevant regulator, for example, the NCAA for aviation-related consumer complaint. So before we end the show this morning, the fact that you've paid in advance does not automatically mean you have lost every right to cancel. Under Section 120, just like I said when we started the show of the FCCPA, consumers have the right to cancel advance bookings, reservations, and others subject to reasonable charges. But consumers also have a responsibility to understand the terms of the transaction and cancel as early as possible. And businesses have a responsibility to make their cancellation and refund terms very, very clear, fair, and transparent. And before you pay as well, consumers, we should know this better, that the cancellation, we should get to know the cancellation terms. After you pay, you keep your record, and if you cancel, remember the charge should be reasonable and simply punitive. That is where we draw the curtain on today's edition of Consumer Watchdog on ConsumerHallaTV. Remember, an informed consumer is a protected consumer. I am Ire Ayomikunle Ike. Thank you for watching. Stay informed, stay protected, and always know your right as consumers. Very, very important. Next week Tuesday, Consumer Watchdog will be back for better awareness. Follow us on all our social media platforms, and do well to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you for always staying tuned to ConsumerHallaTV. Good morning.
Hey there, do you know in the world today Yesterday afternoon, August 23, 2026, a light so bright dimmed, in fact went off. An icon left the urban Hollywood industry, Ogogo, Taiwo Hassan, popularly known as Ogogo. And this man was someone that made memories for a lot of young people, even elderly people. This man was a legend. And it is very, very unfortunate that it is a conversation that we keep on having in the history of the world, which is a particular disease that is so strong, so sad, so bitter, that can turn the hands of time as quickly as possible. Cancer. And today's conversation is in honor of this great legend and icon, Taiwo Hassan, popularly known as Ogogo. And today it is very, very sad, and we send condolence to the families, as right now as we speak, he's been laid to rest at his hometown in Ilaro, Ogun State. Taiwo Hassan is not just a name, it's not just something that we walk past. In fact, this one, it's really, really hard. And to all the Nollywood actors and actresses, we say sorry, and may his soul rest in perfect peace. So good morning, welcome to Healthy Living. I am Kike Lomo Ajibola, and today I want you to take a good look around your home. Yes, your kitchen, your bathroom, your bedroom, even that little corner where you keep your cleaning products. Because when we hear the word cancer, we often think about genetics, smoking, alcohol, or perhaps environmental pollution. But what if I told you that some of the things we use or are exposed to contribute to our long-term health risk? Now, before you start looking at your cooking pot and wondering, is this the culprit? Let me make something very clear. Not everything on this list will give you cancer. Some household exposures are associated with increased cancer risk, while others are simply worth managing carefully. From smoke produced while cooking to second-hand cigarette smoke, certain chemicals, pesticides, and even the air circulating inside a poorly ventilated home. Our everyday environment matters, and that is why today's conversation is very important. And it's not to threaten you, but to help us become more conscious of what we bring into our home, how we use it, and how we protect ourselves and our families. So before you clean that kitchen with spray, or before you spray that insecticide or light that stove, stay with me, because we are looking at 10 things around our homes that could increase our chances of cancer risk. And what can we do differently? Well, before we get straight into the conversation today, let's quickly take a new look at the top news stories going around the country. And the first one is that there is encouraging news for cancer care in Nigeria, as the Federal Executive Council has approved major funding for health infrastructure, including 302.30 billion naira for a new National Institute for Cancer Research and Treatment Center in Abuja. The wider package was reported at about 1.02 trillion naira, covering major infrastructure projects alongside health sector investment. The proposed cancer center is significant because Nigeria continues to face a substantial cancer burden and challenges around access to specialized diagnosis and treatment. The investment is expected to strengthen cancer research and treatment capacity and potentially improve access to specialized services for viewers. However, the message remains simple. While improved treatment facilities are important, prevention, early detection, and reducing avoidable risk factors remain equally important. And moving away from cancer, health authorities are continuing to monitor the serious Ebola outbreak in the Democratic Republic of Congo. According to the European Center for Disease Prevention and Control, as of 20 August 2026, the DRC had reported 5,290 confirmed cases and 2,516 related deaths. Based on data through 19 August, more than 800 patients were also hospitalized in isolation. The outbreak has presented major challenges, including difficulties with contact tracing, insecurity, and mistrust of health facility. A recent report noted that the outbreak has become one of the country's most severe Ebola outbreaks, while authorities and international health organizations continue working to contain transmission. And those are our health updates. Now let's come back home, literally to something we can all do something about, our household environment. And before we get straight into the conversation today, let's go on a short break. When we get back, we'll get straight into the conversation. Welcome back. And before we went on that short break, I said it this morning that we're going to be looking at 10 things around our home that could increase cancer risk. And the first one is cigarette smoking. Let's start with one that many people already know: cigarette smoke. If someone smokes inside the house, they aren't the only person exposed. Family members can breathe in second-hand smoke, and the residue can also remain on surfaces and fabrics. And here is the important point: opening a window doesn't magically make indoor smoking safe. So if you smoke, the earliest choice is to quit. And if you don't smoke, don't allow smoking inside your home. Your home should be your safe space, not another space where you are exposed to tobacco smoke. Smoke from cooking is also very important, because with firewood, charcoal, or other polluting fuels. Let's talk about something particularly relevant to many Nigerians' homes: cooking smoke. If you are cooking with firewood, charcoal, or other fuels that produce significant smoke, especially in a purely ventilated kitchen, you are breathing in pollutants. Household air pollution is associated with serious diseases, including respiratory and cardiovascular conditions, and exposure to air pollution is also associated with lung cancer. WHO specifically identifies household air pollution as a major health concern. So what can we do? Improve ventilation, avoid cooking in completely enclosed spaces, use cleaner cooking fuels for technologies where they are available and affordable. And please don't let the kitchen become a smoke chamber. And just like we always say, make sure your kitchen is well open to air. Do not fry stuff that would create unnecessary smoke. It is absolutely hazardous to the health. And now, we all want mosquitoes and cockroaches out of our homes, absolutely. But how do we use insecticide? Because it actually matters. Don't assume that because a product is sold in a shop, you can spray it anywhere, anytime, and in unlimited quantities. Read the instruction. Keep children away from application. Ventilate the room as directed, and store pesticides safely. And please don't spray foods. And let's take a look at another one, because that black or green patch growing on the wall may look like just an ugly stain, but dampness and mold can seriously affect indoor air quality and respiratory health. Now, mold itself isn't something we should casually label as a direct cause of cancer, but persistent dampness can create unhealthy indoor conditions, and some molds can produce substances called mycotoxins. And so if your home has leaking roof, damp walls, or persistent moistures, don't simply paint over the problem. Find the source, fix the leak, improve ventilation, because a healthy home starts with healthy hair. And then here is one many people may not have heard about: radon. Radon is a naturally occurring radioactive gas that can enter buildings from the ground. You can't see it, you can't smell it, and you can't taste it. Why does it matter? Because long-term exposure to high levels of radon can increase the risk of lung cancer. This is more of an issue in some geographical areas than others, and testing is the way to know whether a home has elevated levels. If you ever live in an area where radon testing is recommended, don't ignore it simply because you cannot see anything unusual. And then let's talk about another thing, because some older buildings may contain asbestos containing materials, particularly in certain roofing, insulation, and construction product. The danger becomes greater when asbestos containing material is damaged, cut, drilled, or disturbed, because the fibers can become airborne. So here is a very important household rule: don't casually break sand, drill, or demolish household materials if you suspect anything or they contain asbestos. Get appropriate professional advice before renovation. Sometimes the safest thing you can do is leave the material undisturbed. We want our home sparkling, obviously. We want it clean. But more chemicals don't necessarily mean a healthier home. Some cleaning products contain chemicals that can irritate the eyes, skin, and lungs. And certain substances used in household or industrial products have been associated with cancer risk under particular exposure conditions. And please, never mix cleaning chemicals randomly. For example, mixing bleach with certain other cleaners can produce dangerous gases. So read the label, use the recommended amount, ventilate the room, and keep chemicals away from children and food. Clean doesn't have to mean chemical overloaded. And have you ever painted a room and immediately closed all the windows because you wanted the paint to dry quickly? That is not necessarily a good idea. Paint, thinners, varnishes, adhesives, and other solvents can easily release volatile organic compounds, commonly called VOCs. Some chemicals in the category can be harmful with sufficient exposure. So when you are painting or renovating, ventilate the area properly. If the product's instruction recommend protective equipment, use it, and don't sleep in a freshly painted room if the product requires a period of ventilation. Sometimes opening the windows is part of the renovation. Let's take a look at another one, because we tend to burn rubbish around the home a lot. This is very, very important. Please don't turn your backyard into an incinerator. Burning plastic, tires, treated woods, household rubbish, or other materials can release harmful pollutants into the air. And when you burn rubbish close to your home, you're not only exposing yourself, you could be exposing your children, neighbors, and other members of your household. The healthier alternatives, whether possible, dispose of waste through proper waste management system and avoid open burning. If it produces toxic smoke, don't breathe it. And let's take a look at another, the last one today, contaminated water and certain household materials. Let's talk about something we consume every day, water. Depending on location and source, water can potentially contain contaminants such as arsenic and other substances that can pose long-term health risk. This doesn't mean you should wake up tomorrow and stop drinking your water. It means you should know the quality of your water source. And if you are using a private well or borehole, periodic testing can help identify problems. And when you discover contamination, don't simply ignore it. Find out what treatment is appropriate for that particular contaminant. Now, I want to pause here because there is something very important we need to understand. Cancer is not usually caused by one single thing. Cancer development can involve genetics, age, infections, lifestyle factors, and environmental exposures. And for many household exposures, the level and duration of exposure matter enormously. So please don't leave this program thinking, I didn't say that yesterday, therefore I have cancer. No, that's not what we are saying. What we are saying is that reducing unnecessary exposure to known or suspected carcinogens is a sensible part of prevention. So what can you do today? What can you actually do when you get home today? First, open up your home and improve ventilation, especially when cooking, painting, or using strong smelling products. Second, stop smoking inside the house. Third, read the labels on your household chemicals. Fourth, don't mix cleaning products unless the manufacturer specifically says it is safe. Fifth, keep pesticides and cleaning products away from children and food. Sixth, fix leaking roof and persistent dampness. Seventh, avoid burning rubbish around your home. And finally, don't wait until someone becomes seriously ill before you start thinking about cancer prevention and screening. As we wrap up today's edition of Healthy Living, remember this: your home is supposed to be where you rest, eat, sleep, and raise your family. But a healthy home isn't just about beautiful furniture, clean floors, and nice deodorant. It is also about the air you breathe, the chemical you use, the smoke you produce, and the environment you create. We may not be able to eliminate every cancer risk from our lives, but we can certainly reduce some avoidable exposures. So when you get home today, don't just ask, is my home clean? Ask yourself, is my home healthy? Because sometimes protecting our health begins with something as simple as opening a window, reading a label, fixing a leak, or deciding not to burn that rubbish. Thank you so much for joining us news for today. And once again, we send our condolences to the family of Taiwo Azan, popularly known as Ogogo. May his soul rest in perfect peace, and may God Almighty Allah forgive all his sins, as he is being buried currently in his hometown in Ilaro. May God give strength to all the Nollywood actors and actresses out there and his family. May God give them strength and replenish their strength to carry on these particular laws. I'm Kikalamo Ajibola. Thank you so much for watching Healthy Living this morning. Take care of your body, take care of your environment, and most importantly, don't ignore the small things that can make a big difference to your health. Stay healthy, stay informed, and I'll see you next time on a beautiful edition of Healthy Living. Good morning.
For many Lagos residents, finding a home is becoming increasingly difficult, but the challenge is no longer simply about finding an available apartment. It is about finding one that people can actually afford. A new report by GTI Investment Group says rents in Lagos have risen by as much as 120% in 2 years, while wage growth has remained between 7 and 9%. So when the cost of housing is rising significantly faster than income, what exactly is driving the gap? Is Lagos simply not building enough homes, or are we building homes that are increasingly beyond the purchasing power of the people who need them? Hello and welcome to another informative edition of Real Estate Today, where we simplify the issue shaping Nigeria real estate sector and help you make informed property decisions. I am Elizabeth Abefe.
And I am Iremofe Koforola. On today's program, we will examine the rising cost of renting in Lagos, the growing gap between housing supply and demand, and the factors pushing property costs beyond the reach of many households. Also, we look at the role of land, infrastructure, financing, and urban development in determining what tenants eventually pay. And we'll be joined by Adebi Eson, CEO of Kratos Investments and Properties Limited, a real estate consultant and property and investment strategist with over a decade of experience in the industry. Also, we put the latest figures and developments before him and examine how Disney's changes the Lagos housing sector, also the demand for housing supply without making affordability even more difficult. Later in the program, we also look at words of the day segments where we explain an important property market term. And in Consumer Corner, we share practical information to help tenants understand the real cost of renting property before they commit.
And today will be another insightful edition you don't want to miss. We will take a short break. When we return, we'll begin with today's real estate news updates. Stay with us. Welcome back here at today's top real estate stories. Nigeria real estate sector is facing complex challenges. This revelation is according to the Nigerian chapter chairman of the newly inaugurated International Real Estate Federation, Ayodeji Odeleye. Speaking at FIA BCI Nigeria 2026 Annual General Meeting in Lagos, Odeleye called for stronger professional standard, transparency and accountability across the sector. He said the organization will focus on strengthening engagement with government, communities and other stakeholders while promoting Nigeria real estate opportunities internationally.
In another development, real estate experts say housing supply and affordability remain major challenges in Nigeria, despite some improvement in the investment climate. Speaking at a real estate roundtable in Lagos, industry stakeholders said demand for residential and commercial property remains strong, but the supply of affordable homes is still inadequate. They attributed the affordability challenge partly to high interest rates, the cost of building materials and prices, professional fees and government charges. They also called for greater financing and access to long-term mortgage financing at more affordable interest rates.
Moving on, real estate and hospitality stakeholders says Nigeria could attract significantly more investments if government address high financing and construction costs, infrastructure deficit, land administration, bottleneck, and regulatory challenges. Aden MC Call Group Managing Director Dr. Edward Akinlade said high interest rates, expensive building materials, and limited access to affordable long-term financing are increasing the cost of developing both residential and commercial properties. He called for faster and more transparent land acquisition and title registration, better infrastructure, and stronger public-private partnership to support large-scale housing development.
And now to round up the real estate news, the Anambra State Police Commander has arrested 4 suspects over the alleged murder of a 56-year-old man in Akoguzu, this Oyi local government area, in a case investigators say is linked to a suspected fraudulent land transaction. According to the report, the investigation followed the man's disappearance and subsequently led police to a suspected land transaction involving the deceased and none of the suspects. The case highlights the risk associated with informal land transactions and the importance of verifying ownership, title documents and existing claims before purchasing property. The allegations remain subject to investigation and due legal process. And that is today's edition of Real Estate News Update. We take a short break right now, and when we return, we'll go into the discussion proper today.
Welcome back, still on Real Estate today. Lagos Housing Affordability Challenge is coming under renewed scrutiny following new research by GTI Investment Group. The report, titled Beyond Rent, Mapping Lagos Housing-Led Capital Expansion, analyzed more than 3,200 rental leasing across 15 zones in Lagos. According to the findings reported on August 2026, rents in Lagos have risen by as much as 120% in 2 years, while wage growth has remained between 7 and 9%. The report also estimates that Lagos faces an annual housing capital shortfall of about 6 trillion naira. Property affordability is also under pressure. GTI puts Lagos property price to income ratio at 90:2 times, compared with 18.4 for Cairo, 11.5 for Nairobi, 5.4 for Cape Town, and 4.2 for Durban. The report says a ratio above 5 is generally considered severely unaffordable. Researchers attributed much of Lagos' property price increase to infrastructure and location premium rather than income growth. The research has therefore shifted the conversation beyond rising rents to a deeper question. Where is the capital needed to build affordable housing, and why is not existing investment translating into sufficient housing supply?
Those figures reveal that Lagos' rental problem is connected to a much wider housing and financing challenge. And today's discussion takes that conversation further.
For years, the conversation around Lagos housing has largely focused on the high cost of rent, but the latest research presents another dimension. GTI says more than 70% of Lagos households are effectively priced out of Lagos of home ownership, while the city housing capital gap is estimated at about 6 trillion naira annually. This means the question is no longer simply, why is rent expensive? We need to ask what is happening across the entire housing system, from land acquisition and infrastructure to financing, development and household income.
And if the market continues to produce properties that a large section of residents cannot afford, then simply increasing the number of buildings may not be enough. So what needs to be changed? That is what we will be examining today.
And joining us today will be Adeboye Eson, CEO of Kratos Investments and Properties Limited, a seasoned real estate consultant and property investment strategist with over a decade of experience in property acquisition, sales, investment, advisory, property sourcing, and strategic real estate consultancy. We will be right back with our guest.
Welcome back to Real Estate Today on ConsumerHallaTV, and joining us on the conversation right now is Adeboye Eson, CEO of Kratos Investments and Properties Limited. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
All right, so today we're discussing something that's very crucial in the world of property and real estate. So Elizabeth,
welcome back again.
Yeah.
The latest GTI research estimates that Lagos has an annual housing capital shortfall of about 6 trillion naira, while more than 70% of households are effectively priced out of home ownership. Now the question is, at the same time, the report says property prices have been driven significantly by location and infrastructure premiums rather than income growth. When you put these figures together, what is the fundamental problem with the way housing is currently being produced and financed in Lagos?
Well, thank you very much for that question, because it's a very big problem, because they are building housing on, many people cannot afford it. And then building material, the investors, the developers are putting all the high costs on the people. And sometimes the land cost, like some areas, so high. When you purchase a land and it's too high, and the financial capital is not being there to access, and all these developers has a way to get their fund, they will still put it to on the property price, and this always skyrockets and then bring about a lot of high cost of living in that area. And then let's say the main issue is just affordable homes for the consumers.
All right, so you highlighted some of the problems that we could say they have contributed to the high increase in rents in Lagos State. And if you look at it now, because the rental market itself, from GTI's research, shows that Lagos rents have risen by as much as 120%, which is really high, and that is just within 2 years, in the space of 2 years. Why the wages have grown by only 7 to 9%, and that is really a significant gap between what people earn and what they are expected to spend in housing. So what is driving this divergence, and how sustainable can a rental market remain when housing costs are rising so much faster than household income? We've mentioned the fact that when it comes to building materials, it's high, but if you look at income, it does not really tally with what people can afford. So what's really like the main issue here?
You know that in this situation now, because of which I've mentioned, that the high cost of land, not accessibility of financial for the developers, at the end of the day, what's always really happened to this kind of a thing is just that it will bring about, I'll still say it's still going to bring about the rent because of the cost of building. Like for example now, I'm still always asking a question that what's going on in our country, a country that we are not importing anything to produce cement, and cement is high today. I think a bag of cement is 15,500. And how? Why? And the government are not even looking at that area. Those are the things that is causing, because all these things that we are using to build and is not being imported, because every time they'll say it's because of the importation, whatever, but right now we have it here in our own country, and we don't know. We are trying to, sometimes I ask the question, what's the factor that is causing this high cost of all these building materials? Because it still boils down to that place. And then another thing that is causing that too is high demand. The government are not building any, in back in the days, you see housing estates, medium housing estates, low cost housing estates. That time it really regulates the rental pricing. And then, but these days, you see more of the private sector that comes in building and with their own fund, not even getting the fund. So they are getting their own fund from their own source, and they want to get the return. When they bid today, they want to get it back quickly. So and it's not sustainable. I'll just tell you the fact, it's not sustainable, because you just see people start leaving some areas back to probably some places that is far away so that they can get cheaper house rent. So it's not sustainable in any way.
Yeah, so before Elizabeth goes ahead to ask a question, I know she has questions too. So you are trying to say more that if we have more government initiatives for housing, it will the rise of renters would drastically reduce, rather than just having private investment in all of it. So do you then think that government-private partnership, which is like public-private partnership, is the solution to it, rather than we having more private investment?
Government partnership with the private is more, it's going to affect the cost of rent, and it's going to help us have more of these buildings that people can is sustainable for people, because no matter when government comes in, you subsidize with And then one thing, this private sector too, they should give them, they should be able to fund them. That's where that partnership comes in. You understand? Because when you get a loan and using it, and you know how much you're going to be paying on interest, you will put the cost on the consumers. So that's where the government should partner with the private
which
sector.
is like in form of a mortgage plan.
Yeah.
I think I love the idea whereby he said government initiative should also fall in. But then I think they've been some updates, some news speculating about the public-private sector trying to work in hand, coming together for real estate and all of that, which I don't think is now in place. Just like he said that is the only solution to the problem. And then, like he mentioned, he said private sectors being the only burden on it, and that can also inflate another charge.
Yeah.
Because obviously, I'm putting all my income on it. I want to make more money. I need my money back.
Yeah.
So that is actually another reason he stated.
One thing, it's not that the government are not building, but the amount they are,
It's not substantial.
it's not substantial. The private sector is more dominant. I believe that the government is supposed to be the one to dominate. And when they dominate, you know, all these things, no matter how it will start in a way. But we just don't want to go into that so much, because there's some other factors too. Because, you know, these people in the government too, they are the ones still coming at the back door, from back door to come and be building and all that. And then, you know, and that's
so
what
at the end of the day, it's still more or less like even the corruption is still within that sector.
It's still within it. So it's really causing a problem for that housing. And then one more thing too, at the road infrastructure, because if there's transportation, it will be, for example, I can be walking in Lagos, you take the train down to Ibadan, you drop, before you get what I'm saying, you know, proper infrastructure on that area should be
more road networks.
Okay, now Lagos is not short of real estate activity. There is construction, there is land development, there are new estate and private housing projects coming up across the states. Yet affordability remains a major problem. Are we actually facing a shortage of housing, or a shortage of housing at the price point and locations where majority of Lagos residents can afford to live? I think you've made mention of transportation being accessible and all of that. So now the point is the shortage of housing at the price point and location where majority of Lagos residents can afford to live. Are we actually facing a shortage of housing, or a shortage of housing at the price point and location?
I would still say probably the both we are facing. Because mostly we will say, let me just speak on the pricing. Because a lot of people can afford the one that is available, and they will be forced to move to further place, because where they cannot afford is around their workplace, but they couldn't afford it. They will have to. So that let us say we should talk about that part, because we spoke about some people. The private sector is the one building, and then they want to get their return. Because if you want to invest, when you are investing, there's a time limit for you to get your return back.
All right, so you mentioned getting returns, the cost and all that, and you know there are many factors to responsible, because you still have to hit the nail. You talk about location, which she asked, you talk about shortage, the price. Now so many factors, because if you look at it, it's not as if there's no land development, there's no construction going on. But let's look at so many factors. We have land, infrastructure, construction, and financing, which is very important, which we talked about mortgage plan earlier. So all of this contributes to final cost of a building or a property, which we've highlighted. So now, if we were to resolve all of these issues, we have different factors coming together. So would you rather say we are looking at pricing or the rent being paid by consumer? Which part of this chain should government and private sector address first when it comes to this, by bringing down the cost of housing rather than just simply making housing available at higher prices? If you are looking at all of these chains we've highlighted, which one should we look at first? Because you mentioned the cost of building materials.
Have the right to be heard, absolutely. So join us on the conversation, share your brand experience, where you tell us all your experiences about brand on the outer world via our YouTube channel every Wednesday from the hour of 4:20 to 5:20. You can watch us via our YouTube channel, ConsumerHallaTV, and subscription is free. Follow us on all our social media platforms, ConsumerHallaTV. Share your brand experience. It's about storytelling. It's about experiences.
Hello consumers, you're welcome to another exciting episode of Consumer Voice on ConsumerHallaTV. I am Matilda Omenai. As you already know, Consumer Voice is a show where we'll be visiting different places in Lagos to check out people's preferences, hear what the consumers have to say about different leading brands that they make use of.
Hello, it's your boy here, Iremofe Koforola, and you know what? They call me the AUF General Overseer. Every day is a blessing and it is meant to be enjoyed maximally with AUF packages that put a smile on our faces. And guess what? That is why this show AUF is for you. You can get to know about trending market slashes, promos, offers and juicy deals that put a smile on your faces, and you can always enjoy them maximally. And you know one thing that is so interesting about this show? It is a blend of English and Pidgin. As I dey run you English, now I go dey marry am with Pidgin, make am spicy. So catch me every time on the show to enjoy more about trendy AUF packages. Peace.
Public service announcement. Hello consumers, I am Kikelomo Ajibola and welcome to the Scam Alert segment on ConsumerHallaTV. Scam Alert educates viewers about various scams affecting consumers. We learn tips on how to identify fraudulent activities and provide advice on protecting our personal information. We aim to raise awareness and empower viewers to avoid falling victim to scams. We cover various topics such as phishing, identity theft, fraudulent investment schemes, and many more. You want to catch up on how these scammers invade our lives? Join us every Tuesday by 12:30 p.m. for Scam Alert on our YouTube channel at ConsumerHallaTV. Subscription is absolutely free. And in case you're not following us across all our social media platforms, follow us on Instagram, Facebook, X, TikTok at ConsumerHallaTV. Don't say I didn't do anything for you this 2025. Bye.
Welcome to In the Marketplace. We are taking you on a journey behind the scene of Nigeria's most vibrant market. From the sight and sound of the market to the stories of the people who makes it thrive. We will be sharing the untold stories that brings this market to life. Join us as we explore the history, challenges, and triumphs of the market vendors. We will dive into the daily lives of the people who call markets home and uncover the secret that makes this market special. You will get to see the passion, energy, and dedication that goes into making this market success. Tune in to the In the Marketplace on ConsumerHallaTV on Thursday by 11 a.m. to experience the sight and sound. Don't forget to follow us on all our social media handle on ConsumerHallaTV. I am Elizabeth Abefe.
Hello fellow consumers, are you looking for a program where we give analysis about brand and a program where we project the voice of the consumer? Join my team and I on Consumer Analytics and Resolution Box by calling on the program. Hello there, welcome to the midday news on ConsumerHallaTV. I am Yuri Hayomikuli Iki. Nigeria's external reserve climbed to $53 billion or $111 million, marking their highest level in over 17 years. The Central Bank of Nigeria records confirmed that reserves reached the significant milestone on August 24, 2026. The recent accumulations brings the national liquidity position within $14.2 million of the record peak archived that was achieved in January 2009. The sustained foreign exchange inflows and stronger petroleum export earning drove the steady build-up over recent months. Financial analysts noted that the robust reserve position provides an essential cushion against external economic shocks. This strength in the liquidity also reinforces market confidence and supports the ongoing stability within the domestic foreign exchange framework. The capital market expert commended President Bola Ahmed Tinubu following Nigeria's official reclassification of the FTSE resale frontier market status effective from September 21, 2026. Stakeholders view that the restoration is a vital vote of confidence in the national's financial architecture. The country had previously lost its status in September 2023 due to severe foreign exchange liquidity and capital repatriation orders. Subsequent policy reforms, clearing of historical backlogs, and the Central Securities Clearance System transition to T+1 settlement cycle facilitated the successful reinstatement. The City Boy Movement Director General Francis Shoga emphasized that the benchmark restoration validates the ongoing structural progress. Industry leaders believe the upgraded classification will attract renewed foreign portfolio investment and enhance the portfolio investment, overall the market efficiency. Investors demonstrated an overwhelming preference for longer-dated government securities during the latest primary market debt auction. The Central Bank of Nigeria data revealed that participants submitted 3,630 billion naira for the 364-day Treasury bill. Despite receiving subscription bids exceeding 3,790 billion naira, the regulatory authority lowered the stop rate by 44 basis points to 17.15%. The immense investor demand allowed the Apex Bank to reject costlier bids while allotting 638 billion naira. The strong appetite for long-term instrument reflects shifting portfolio strategies among institutional investors within the domestic fixed income market. Financial authorities continue to utilize treasury auctions effectively to manage their monetary liquidity and curb inflationary pressures. The federal government inaugurated a 17-member technical committee to tackle national fish production deficit and reduce import dependency. The Minister of Marine and Blue Economy, Adegboyega Oyetola, charged the committee in Abuja to translate previous strategic recommendations into actionable reforms. Minister Oyetola highlighted that domestic productions remain significantly below the national demand, impacting food security and foreign exchange reserves. The key challenges identified include exorbitant feed expenses, high post-harvest losses, limited cold storage facilities, and inadequate access to affordable agricultural financing. The newly established body will design a comprehensive implementation roadmap to strengthen the entire aquaculture value chain. Stakeholders expect these coordinated measures to enhance local fish farming, create employment, and improve household nutrition nationwide. Meanwhile, the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency stepped up enforcement of the statutory regulations governing the indigenous participation in domestic shipping activities. The Public Relations Head Osagi Edward announced that operators must strictly comply with the Coastal and Inland Shipping Act and related maritime guidelines. Under the enhanced regulatory framework, entities requiring vessels for the cabotage operations must utilize Nigerian-owned, registered, manned, and construct ships. The agency officials emphasized that foreign vessel deployment is permissible over when verified local capacity is entirely unavailable. The enforcement drive aim is to protect local shipping enterprises, build the national maritime capacity, and ensure compliance with international safety standards. The maritime authorities warn that defaulting operators will face strict sanctions under existing statutory provisions. The federal government unveiled plans to convert 21 idle dams discovered along the Sokoto-Badagry Highway into commercially viable power asset. The Minister of Power, Joseph Tegbe, disclosed this initiative in Abuja during the launch of the Renewable Energy Asset Management Company. Minister Tegbe noted that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu directed the ministry to optimize standard infrastructure to address national electricity supply deficit. The upcoming small-scale hydro policy will harness this abandoned water reservoir to generate renewable energy for surrounding communities. The Strategic Asset Optimization Initiative forms part of a broader governmental effort to expand grid capacity. Meanwhile, integrating these regional power sources will significantly improve the local electricity availability and support industrial growth. And before we end the news, the Transmission Company of Nigeria mobilized over $1.4 billion in international loans and grant to expand the national electricity grid. Executive Director Rajiboye Oluwagbenga announced that the financing will support the massive infrastructural upgrades and transformer installations. Development partners, including the World Bank, African Development Bank, and Japan International Cooperation Agency, provided the crucial funding over the past 12 months. This international investment successfully elevated national wheeling capacity to over 8,700 megawatt. Officials confirmed that while stimulated grid capacity has reached record levels, physical testing of the network is ongoing. The enhanced transmission infrastructure will ensure stable electricity delivery and reduce system-wide power distribution bottlenecks. Thank you for joining us on the news this hour. I am Ayomikunle Ike. Follow us on all our social media platforms and subscribe to YouTube channel. Stay tuned. Good afternoon.
Hey there, do you know in the world today, everyone is a consumer, and as consumers, we all have the right to be heard.
In Nigeria today, as a consumer, you have all right to product information, right to fair pricing, right to return goods, right to product labeling, right to fair dealings, and a lot more.
Well then, have you heard about the new media channel?
ConsumerHalla TV.
ConsumerHallaTV.
ConsumerHalla TV.
At ConsumerHalla TV, our goal is to inform and educate consumers in Nigeria with insightful news alongside development within the fast-paced world of consumers through well-researched, specialized, and analytical content.
Our vision at ConsumerHallaTV is to create an engaging platform that provides right connections for meaningful brands in Nigeria, thus creating a more caring world for consumers where business thrive.
And guess what? Our ConsumerHalla brand is the first consumer complaint resolution portal in Nigeria, powered by a 72-hour feedback mechanism. We offer consumer advocacy, informative talk shows, branding promotions, advertising, and lots more. Connect with us via our YouTube channel at ConsumerHallaTV. Follow us on our Facebook page, ConsumerHallaTV, our Instagram page, ConsumerHallaTV, and do well to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Subscription is free, ConsumerHallaTV. At Consumer,
which everybody is privy to. We all know that. But at the end of the day, which should we address to? Because locations and all of these things, they matter also.
In a way, government has a lot of work to do in this aspect. They need to reduce some unnecessary charges. Because when I was investigating all this high price in building materials, and I said exportation, you'll be saying duty and all that, but we are having everything here. What's going on? But we having it here. Government are, there's some kind of charges that the government are putting on the private sector in that area, especially those people that are producing it, and then they should reduce that
in terms of taxation.
Yes, they should reduce that, because at least if they can reduce the cost of these charges, it will be like a form of subsidizing for the consumers. So if they reduce it, it will force them to reduce the pricing of these building materials. And then too, they should build, in developed countries, their policies, they need to bring up some kind of policy, because sometimes when there's no policy to control all this
there are tenancy laws anyway. There are tenancy laws in Nigeria, and I think they're trying to reform some of these laws, and I think that is the place you are coming in now, talking about
that tenancy law. I'll tell you that there's some tenancy law that is even if I tell you, there's a lawyer that you invited here one day, and then I was watching and the way I was looking at her. Probably she's trying to defend those people that owns the properties. The tenants in law, some properties in Ikoyi, some parts of Ireland that is not even, they're not using it there. Some on mainland, they are different. Like for example, when you guys talks about the increments, it's there, 20% of your sitting tenants. Landlord can increase 20% after 3 years before you can increase. So you increasing 50, 100% is bad. So you can, it's there in the tenancy law. You can contest it, and you speak to your landlord or the agent in charge or the whoever that you can speak to to negotiate the price, and then speak to them. You know, sometimes we human in Nigeria, we don't go to, like for example, where I come from, we don't go to court and come back to be friends. So you know how to, dialogue with the owner of the house, and then make sure that you find a common ground for the both of you.
All right, sir. So this is real estate today, and this conversation is getting more insightful, talking about rents. Everybody's concerned there, stakeholders, individuals, citizens, private sectors. But before we dive more into this conversation, let's go on a short break right now. We will be right back.
Welcome back, still on real estate today, and we're looking at Lagos rent crisis. Why are rents rising? And I know most consumers really do want a say or want to know the reason why, and that is why we are being joined by Mr. Esson, still here with us. Now, there's also this question of long-term financing at the recent housing forum where the GTI report was presented. It was noted that Nigeria pension assets has exceeded 31 trillion naira, while actual exposure to real estate is estimated at about 5%. The report says existing rules permit investment in instruments including RETs, mortgages, asset-backed securities within prescribed limits. Why isn't more of this long-term capital finding its way into housing? And what could need to change for institutional investment to significantly increase housing supply?
Well, I would say first, they have a cheaper mortgage for the consumers. It will, because sometimes all these mortgage institute, they always, it's really high in that when people want to get the mortgage, they will look at it and think about it again and said, this thing is too high, because when they are calculating it to what they are having and how to go about it, they will just leave it and they will still be living their life instead of having it. And in our country here, we don't know that mortgage is something that a lot of people are even tapping into. Maybe more awareness for them to know. You understand? And then longer repayments.
Yeah.
Because sometimes when it's too short, and the mortgage is always having interest. So no matter how, and then I guess when you want to get a mortgage, they will first ask your age. I think one time that they will know the particular age, and they will look at the years. That's what they were using, calculating the years that we used to. Because I think when I approached them one time like that, they asked my age. They look at it, my medical report. I have to have it. You have to have all those medical reports and see what you are having and all that, and then they have to calculate and see, okay, let's see how you can, and you have your proof of funds, how your income is.
Yes.
So and that's where sometimes the government has to come into that kind of a sector, so that if anybody want to take a mortgage, all these things that we always subsidize, you can subsidize for people here too. You remove subsidy from oil sector, and then the next thing you are saying that you are giving it to the governors, local governments. We are not saying anything. If you put it inside some areas for you to subsidize all these things for us, then we will be happy, and then everybody will be able to go and say, okay. For example, now I learned that there's a grant from the federal government to the local government, and you know that the local governments are not even doing anything on it by making people aware. Those are the things that is really happening, because if we talk about these things now, some people doesn't even know what is called mortgage. That's where that place, and then more accessible housing finance. You know that this mortgage thing and housing finance is different from each other. You understand? So, you know, like we always do something in real estate that somebody has a land, doesn't have the money to develop it. Okay, probably these days nobody is building on one plot anymore. You understand? You have a plot of land or 1.5 plot of land or something, and then, or you just have to go to an institute that's when if the government puts on that kind of, instead of that grant sitting down in that local government, and some people are waiting to share it between themselves, because even though you have what it takes to get the grant, you're still going to, some people will still collect something on it. If you apply for 5 million and you can get 5 million, maybe 3 million will be getting to you. You understand? So you know how all these things are, and before you know it, they'll start pointing to the federal government, and which he has done his own bit. So now, what I'm saying is that this kind of thing, you have a land, you cannot develop it. They should create an institute that somebody can go there and say, okay, I have a land, I want to build this thing. Like for example, there's some banks and some institutes that if you want to pay your rent and you don't have the rent now, you can apply. They will pay the rent for you and you pay it back. We have done it for some people.
With returns or
yes.
interest rates?
Interest rate. But the interest rate is low.
Yes, that is
very, very low.
There.
You understand? One app loan. It was not an app before. Before they came like microfinance bank. Okay. I'm trying to get the name of the.
You might not necessarily have to say that.
They came like that, and they start giving us awareness and all that. Then I approached them and I said, okay, I want to be having this for my clients. That's okay. We test run it with a guy, and every year they will be the one to pay. Wow. Because I have a property too that they are. So I'll just sit there and I'll say that, okay, this guy, I've gotten it. He's the one that will pay it back. There's a way they are collecting it back, because when you are a salary earner, because the salary earners are the one that face a lot of things that they don't get. At the end of the day, they work all through their life and they will not have anything to show for it. So most of them, if they can get this kind of initiative, it will help.
Okay, so this right now, is part of the housing finance you are talking about, which is from mortgage plan.
Yes.
So so the loan they're trying to pay for you is like housing finance. Is there another housing finance apart from this that people might not be privy to know?
For now, there's not any housing finance that, because there's another one that they call it JV. Okay. But it's private. It's still the private sector. You know, all these developers, you have to get developer to say, okay, I have a land, I want you to build this. They will have an agreement.
The number of years sometimes.
Even sometimes you can build. They can build two. You take one. I take one. Like if you have a plot of land, nobody is building on a plot of land these days. I have plots of lands, so you can just approach one developer and said, okay, I have this land, and I want you will check the area. It depends on the area. And the man will look at it as, okay, this is the amount that I can use to build these 2 houses, okay? This house, if I sell it, I'll get my money back and marry it on.
So now the point is it's not like there's no mortgage plans, but the rules that back it up or the follow-up that backs it up is just the procedures. Yes, it's just too much and people have to rethink it before they actually say, oh, I want to go for this. And you said some of these mortgage plans, they don't give enough time for you to spread your payments.
Yes.
And that could actually be one of the reasons why most consumers
don't go for it. They just stay away from it.
All right, so it's very so important that we know you've mentioned fathers. Okay, when it comes to tenancy laws, this might not be applicable everywhere.
No.
We've mentioned some of the factors that when you look at housing and transportation, because you look at the fact that when it comes to the central Lagos, houses are very expensive in that sense. So now let's look at it this way. When you look at supply problem, which is very crucial, and the affordability gap, the financing, land, infrastructure, and urban planning. So, but for the average Lagos resident who simply wants decent housing without spending an unsustainable proportion of their income, we've highlighted some of these housing finance for them. So, for instance, if we had the opportunity to influence Lagos building strategy for the next 5 years, from your own perspective now, as someone who is into investment, housing, and all of these things, so what are the 3 changes you would prioritize, and who needs to take responsibility for making all of these changes effective?
Well, I've mentioned a lot of things earlier.
Yeah, but personally for you now?
I'm talking from my personal view, and then what I can do, policy first to control when it comes from the cost of the building material, reducing some charges on these building materials, subsidizing. I've said it. I said when you are subsidizing a lot of things in that aspect, living will be very easy in Lagos. And then the transportation aspect, because all of us want to live in Lagos. In US, some people are working in New York and they will come all the way from another state to come and work, and after work everybody. So if we can have a proper transportation infrastructure, I can say I'm living in Abeokuta. House is cheap over there. I see a lot of houses are cheap over there that you can buy. You have the money, you can buy, but you want to still squeeze yourself in Lagos. So if that is put in place, you can transport yourself from Lagos down to that place, and you are still working in Lagos, and you'll be faster. You understand? Now, let us now come down. I just want to put it in a layman way of thing. You see, there are some, I don't want to be using all this, what they have been using in our government. They will say, cabals. They have cabals too in the real estate sector that they don't want to. They don't just want.
I mean, more like gatekeepers.
Yes. So they are blocking a lot of things, and that must be checkmate. So that tomorrow it will not cause a problem. We are getting to a place and we don't know what's going on. Everybody wants to stay in Lagos. Everybody wants to, but they are pushing them out. Because, for example, a 2-bedroom apartment, 4 million naira. A 2-bedroom apartment, 4 million naira. So how will you afford that? So I've said it. The main thing is just policy, quality control, agency that will, and then awareness. Because there are a lot of things that we discuss. They will discuss it online, they will discuss it on TV, no awareness. Because a lot of people doesn't go on internet, even though when we see the percentages rising every day, how many people that will sit down and be listening? But when we go to the grassroots and give awareness of whatever you are giving us, like for example, the grants I said is at the federal, local governments now. They are saying the government are not doing good. They are not. Nobody is aware of that. The information is really little, so the awareness always spread the information, because there are a lot of things that is going on in real estate, and because the government will say, but when they watch this, they'll say, but we are doing this and now that. You see some houses is very, and at the end of the day, you just see that some people will just occupy it because it's not being rolled out. There's more awareness on it that, we are doing this, you can come and get this, you can come and get that. Because all these people that is in these ministries, they are like, as you have called them, gatekeeper, I call them cabas. So they need to break them. We need to break them. Because that's one thing. I'll first break them first with policy.
And I think I quite agree with him, because most of the time, most people always focus on federal government.
Yes.
The government but then we
the state government, local government,
the
grassroots
itself. And he has also made mention of whereby transportation and all of that. Everybody wants to stay in Lagos, and there's popular demand.
It's high.
Lagos is the commercial hub.
Yes, so everybody wants to stay.
Exactly. So if 3 to 5 people want a particular apartment, obviously there will be like an increase instantly in it. So he has already listed most reasons why everything happens this way, transportation, and just look at it, just like he said, if there is more sufficient transportation, there won't be all this traffic and all of that. Because when everywhere is being congested, all these are also factors that.
No, you actually have to lay more emphasis on that, so that those three crucial points are important.
High demand too can. When there's high demand, there was a time on the island when everybody was leaving the island because of the water, the flood. Everybody left island and they came down to mainland. Do you know that the rents had to come down? Because there was one time the flood was so much that they thought it's going to sweep. So everybody now left island and said, I'm tired of this. Even people that owns their own building, they left island and come back to the mainland. You understand? And at the end of the day, the pricing, the rent price went down because nobody is even taking it. So if government can come in and subsidize this, which I will still talk about, we need more hands of government in this. And like I've said, let us go and be checking all these, our local governments and our governors. Let's forget this federal. They will not come down and come and help us. There are a lot of things that is there. If we start talking about it, you will start seeing a lot of things that they have done and put in place that we don't know. We've reviewed a lot of things here right now, but if we keep focusing on them, thinking that there will be a messiah down here, no. Because you said something, I like what you said, that we need to go to our grassroots and let's go and meet them there. We heard this, what is going on here. How do we go about it? And if you couldn't get it, there's a place that you can report the matter.
All right. So.
Thank you so much, Mr. Esson, for joining us on Real Estate today and sharing your perspective. It was an honor, like having you right here. You explained, sharing your own parts. It was really an insightful edition.
Thank you very much.
And we hope that everybody concerned, stakeholders, government agencies, everybody would, begin to crack the nut, because at the end of the day, we have to ensure that once we have safer home for everyone, we have a safer country. Because our scene, especially in Lagos State, is something we really need to look into. So thank you for sharing your perspective once again, and at least hearing from an expert, you get to know that yes, a lot needs to be done. A lot to be done. And look forward to seeing you more on our episodes.
I'm available anytime you call me.
All right.
And we are here to enlighten ourselves and then move the country forward.
All right. All right, so you've been having a very good time on the show today, but you know what is real estate today without word of the day? So we just display that on the screen right now. And okay, after then we go to our consumer corner, but let's go on a short break right now. We'll be right back. Alright, welcome back. So those are practical considerations every tenant should make before committing to a property, because the true cost of housing goes beyond the figure written on the tenancy agreement.
Today's discussion has shown that Lagos rent crisis is much bigger than the amount a tenant pays its landlord. It is connected to housing supply, land, infrastructure, financing, location, and the gap between property prices and household income.
And if housing costs continue to rise faster than incomes, affordability will remain one of the biggest challenges facing residents of Lagos.
For consumers, the lesson is simple. Before committing to a property, don't just look at the rent. Look at the total cost of living there and whether it is sustainable for your income, and create more awareness. Join us again next time as we continue to simplify real estate and bring you the information you need to make informed property decisions. I am Elizabeth Abefe.
And I am Iremofeko Forola, but trust me, the conversation continues. Go to our comment section. What's your perspective, or what do you think what not do you think we need to crack for Lagos rent to become subsidized? We've mentioned so many points this year, but trust me, we always continue that. So thank you for watching Real Estate today, and do not forget to subscribe across all our social media platforms. See you next time. Bye for now.
My name is Tunde Olufowora, and I'm the CEO of Van Eyck Communications. We are we call the publisher or the owner of the new initiative called ConsumerHallaTV. ConsumerHallaTV is actually Nigeria's first consumer-centered, or call it consumer-centric television platform that aims to bring voice to the over 220 million Nigerians. It was a vision that came to my heart about 10 years ago. I remember that I was traveling. I traveled out of the country, on airline. And I had this unpleasant experience. It was a trip to an African country from Nigeria, and I actually went with a local flight from Nigeria. I wouldn't want to mention the name of the airline, and then it was to South Africa, and we landed in South Africa. And let me just paraphrase it. When I was coming back, I had some money, some dollars, and that someone had given to me to hand over to another person in Nigeria. So I wanted to help out. I didn't want to carry the cash on myself. So for whatever reason, I opted to. I had a small case, and I felt that it was safer for me to put the money in my luggage. So I put it in a safe place in my luggage, got everything tagged, and I checked in my luggage. My arrival in Nigeria, I was standing and was waiting by the carousel just so that I could pick up my luggage, and then I was there for 1 hour and waiting for my luggage. I didn't know that my luggage already arrived, and it was one of the luggage that was moving around on the carousel. So after about 1 hour wait, I looked to my left and my right. Almost everybody had gone. I think there were just about 2 or 3 left. So I beckoned on the woman that was on my side, and I noticed she was really in tears. Madam, what happened? She said, her bag has just been torn and a lot of things stolen. So I said, well, I've also been waiting for my own. She said, you better go and check those luggages there. Maybe yours is one of them. And lo and behold, I went around there. Mine was one of them. By the time I got it, everything inside my luggage was gone. All the valuable things there were gone. To cut the long story short, we felt there was need for us to report the case, at least to the airline. It was in the night, about 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock. We went in to go and see the officer that was in charge. As soon as we got in there, the officer said, "Oh, so sorry, but you will have to go to our head office in somewhere in Victoria Island, to lodge a complaint." Okay. So the next day we went to the Victoria Island and we lodged a complaint, and that was it. And since that day, I'm talking a story of over 10 years ago, I didn't get a call, not even a call from that airline to talk to me about what happened to my luggage. Now, about a month after that trip, I had another opportunity to travel out of the country. This time around, it was to US, and it was an official assignment. And I flew on, I will mention the airline this time around. I flew on a BA. I really didn't like BA. I usually go with Virgin Atlantic and things like that. But my protocol officer convinced me and said, "Okay, you will love BA. Why don't you go on BA?" Anyway, so I went on BA to US. And of course, on our return from US to Nigeria, we had to do, of course, there'll be like a connecting flight, from Heathrow. So we got into London Heathrow, and then because it was through Heathrow that we went, and then so they changed since it was BA, they changed the aircraft this time around to a bigger one. I mean, clearly because there were more Nigerians, or more people that were planning to come to Nigeria, and then we boarded. Not quite 10 minutes into the flight, in the air, the aircraft started malfunctioning. The air conditioning compartment were not functioning very well. I was on what you call business economy. The whole of that business economy all the way to economy side, the ACs were not working well. It was hot. And then I was watching. And then from that moment till we got to Nigeria. From that moment till we got to, I'm just trying to paraphrase. From that moment till we got to Nigeria, I could remember very well how many times the pilot, broke into conversation and had to apologize and say, "We're really very sorry about this." He was giving us almost every 30 minutes, there's always a kind of update. So sorry, this is what we're doing now, this is what we're doing. While we were on that journey, I also remember an incident. So they came, the crew apparently couldn't resolve it. They couldn't manage the crisis or what was going on about it. They couldn't fix it. So they come up and said, we're so sorry, but for all the inconvenience, we're declaring, free lunch, free whatever it is you want, you can get. So trust Nigerians, you need to hear how everybody was jubilating, But something struck me. The experience I had just about a month before, and this experience, somehow I started comparing them. I was trying to see how this matter will be managed. Again, to cut the story short, we landed in Nigeria on a BA. Before we landed, the pilot announced and said that for the inconvenient, they will be giving a voucher of £50 to everyone that flew on that aircraft. I thought it was a joke. I mean, it was my first time with BA, but for what I knew or know of the British man would never even play with his 1 penny, talking of £1. So I felt that must be a joke of the year. So we left. I got back to my office. I think it was just about a week after. Our officer, our guys in our mail room came up and said, "Oh, you have a parcel." So I said, "Parcel? Yeah." So they bought this parcel wrapped. I opened it, and boom, I bought the document out. It was the £50 voucher from BA. So what's the tenor of this story? An experience with one airline was terrible, no apology. An experience with another one, even though it was a bad experience, but it was very managed, well managed. So managed that even if we have suffered anything in that aircraft, you probably, for the sake of how they manage it, we have forgiven them. So that was how this journey started. So I started thinking in my mind, this is what we go through in this country. But are we different from other nations? So God put in my heart the idea of ConsumerHalla. That's why the Hala came with consumer. And we started that journey about 10 years ago. We started by creating a platform called ConsumerHalla, where consumers, so I discovered that Nigerian consumers don't have a voice. So things happen, and that's it. We live with everything. So we've started the journey from creating the platform. We have an app, we even have a magazine, and we thought we could move it from that to the next stage, which is the television. So the TV today, has come. So I would say precept by precept, line upon line, we have been able to build on our aspiration, to finally bring to birth this unique and exciting platform, So it's a digital telecast, and our goal is to further connect consumers in Nigeria to brands with insightful news, development within the fast-paced world of consumers. The world of consumers is growing at a very fast pace, So we want to inform Nigerians. We want to get them educated about their rights, So our role is that we're going to educate consumers in Nigeria, all right? So by bringing them specialized and what you call analytical, research-based content generation that will inform, educate, sensitize the audience, So that's ConsumerHallaTV. So I call it an offshoot of our ConsumerHalla brand. ConsumerHalla brand actually was the first we call it the first complaint or consumer complaint resolution portal. When we started it about 10 years ago, or about 7 years ago, it became the first complaint resolution portal. We created it so that Nigerians can actually lodge complaint on that portal. We spent a lot of resources to build a very robust platform where today, if you have any complaint, about any brand, any leading brands in Nigeria, and you go on that platform, you can actually click, just a click, you can find the brand, you can actually lodge your complaint, and once you submit it, that complaint will be routed to that organization, and within 72 hours, we will obtain feedback for you. We build it in such a way that we have connection to almost all the organizations, and it's been working. We've resolved several complaints for people without having to charge them any penny, because the idea is not to charge. So what we have done with ConsumerHallaTV is to take it to the next level. So we hope to change the narrative. We want to give the right direction. Nigeria has the largest consumer market in the world, with a population of over 220 million people. Why should we be the one that is suffering the most? Everywhere you turn to, it's as though Nigerian consumers don't have a voice. You're traveling, you buy a ticket. For whatever reason, an airline will wake up middle of the night, delay the flight for whatever reason, and then you'll be waiting at the airport for hours. You'll be there for 2 hours, 3 hours, no any explanation. Then while you're there, they can even wake up and say, oh, flight has been cancelled. So everybody carry their luggage and go home. Nothing happened. Of course, things are changing. We must commend government because government is beginning to wake up, but there's still a lot to be done. And we believe that we can help to make, bring about those right changes. So we offer deliberately, part of what we do is that we also offer advocacy. All right. We're not just an advocacy organization, but we offer advocacy. We have a legal team. We have lawyers that are registered on our platform. All right. That can also take up cases. Okay. So, and we've taken up many cases like that, and won those cases. So ConsumerHalla is a platform to help consumers to, we're not fighting brands, but rather we say we're bringing about an amicable, resolution of conflict, such that it will be beneficial to the consumers and also be beneficial to the brand. I remember the word of Jeff Bezos. Bezos is the founder of Amazon. He said that the most important single thing, all right, for an organization is to focus obsessively, use the word obsessively, on the customer. We often say that customers is a king. They should sit at the top of the ladder. In our environment, customers are the ladder. A brand wakes up today, decide what product to produce. They wake up today, decide how much the consumer should pay. They wake up to decide everything for consumers. So consumers are just at the receiving end, and yet they are milking the consumers. There's no price regulation in this country, none. People just wake up and fix prices. Look at power. Government wakes up, we change policy, we wake up and we get people to pay more. We think it's time for consumers to begin to speak out. In speaking out, in engaging, we can get the brand to begin to do what is right. And of course, I know that the consumers themselves need to be educated. So our role, our vision also is to ensure that we educate consumers. We bring awareness. A lot of Nigerian consumers don't even know about their rights. You buy a product from a supermarket. I've had this experience. You buy a product from a supermarket, all right? For whatever reason, you take that product back to your house, and maybe something went wrong somewhere. By the time you take that product back to the shop where you bought it from, and you say, "Oga, this thing, you know what's going to tell you? Oga, na me make am. Na me make am, and that's why I buy am." Meaning that there's nothing I can do to the product. So you lose the product, then you lose your money, because the money is not refunded. The product you can't use. Only in Nigeria. Only in Nigeria. Let me give you another experience I had. In the course of this, because I did a lot of, I went around, you know, in doing this. I was in US, I was in UK, I was in South Africa, I was in Germany, just because of this, to just study the environment. You know, I was in a friend's house in UK, in London, you know, and then what happened? We were going to go out, and he was going to dress up. So he said, "Oh," to me, I was seated in his sitting room. So he said, "Oh, wait a minute, I picked up an iron, that's the pressing iron, 2 days ago or so from a store. You know, oh, let me try this. Let me just try and use that to iron my shirt, and we can go out." So I was seated. The TV was on. I was watching. While I watched him, he brought out the pressing board, you know, spread it out, brought the iron out in my presence, plugged in the iron, and then as soon as he switched on the power button, we just had a spark. Boom! The guy was raged. Then he goes, "What? What just happened?" So he said, no, these guys are in trouble. They're in soup. I was thinking, what are you going to do? You know, I was trying to compare that experience to what would have happened in Nigeria. In my presence there, he opened the pack. There was a card inside it. Inside that card was a call, number to call. And he called the shop or wherever he got the thing from. I was hearing the conversation that was going on. And all he said to them on the phone was, "Look, you know, by the time he even called, you know, clearly because they already, through the call, they could trace where he was calling from and who was calling. He said, "Yeah, I picked up this number, I picked up this iron yesterday, and guess what? I just plugged it to power, and then this thing just, you know, didn't work." At the other hand, I could hear the voice, "Oh, we're so sorry. We're sorry about that." And they said, "This is your address, yeah. Don't worry, we'll get you a replacement." All right. So my friend ended the call and dropped the. So I said, "So what's going to happen?" He said, "Don't worry yourself now. Shebi, we're here. They will bring a replacement." I said, "They will bring a replacement." He said, "Yes." I said, "They won't even try to check whether it was your fault, because it could have been your fault. Maybe you didn't do something well about the first." "No, it can't be his fault. Shebi, it's a brand new item that he bought." While we were still talking, in fact, I'm not even sure it was up to 30 minutes or so, we had a knock on the door. He himself said he must be the dispatch person. By the time he opened the door, it was a dispatch man that was on the other side. And then the dispatch man was at the door. Just watch this. Was at the door. I was seated in the sitting room. The guy was at the door to meet with the dispatch guy. The dispatch man that brought the replacement iron, you know, I heard him say, "We're so sorry." So I was so shocked. I mean, a dispatch man, this guy is a dispatch, so also apologize. I was so touched by it that even a dispatch man was so trained, you know, to tell the guy, "We are so sorry." And guess what? He brought the replacement iron. By the time my guy opened the iron, it was a bigger size iron. So they replaced with a bigger size iron. The guy never asked for the one that went bad. He didn't say, "Oga, where is the other one that we gave to you," so that he could take it back. No, he just bought a new one and gave it back. So I asked my friend, I said, "Can you interpret this to me?" He said, "Here in London, if they didn't do this, they know the next thing I will do." So I'm just going to grab a lawyer, and I'm going to tell them they've destroyed something in my house. By the time I'm done, they will pay through their nose, because the brand the consumers are conscious of their rights. In Nigerian consumers, even those who are aware, won't even take the battle up. Everybody just go, what can we do now? Today they wake up and ban this. What can we do now? So we're going to change the narrative. We have to stand up. So the vision of ConsumerHallaTV is really to create an engagement platform that constantly mirrors the minds of consumers and provides right connections for meaningful brands in Nigeria. Thus, we believe, will be forming part of that our overall vision, of creating a more caring world of consumers where businesses thrive. So, I think that we'll make our impact. We ask you to join us on this journey. ConsumerHallaTV will drive engagement. It will also be there to help to promote brands that are doing what is right. So we're not out to criticize any brand. Rather, we have to complement what the brands are doing, because there is no organization that or a business that was set up to fail. Nobody set up a business to fail. So there are just gaps that need to be fixed. So together we can fix things, and together we believe that we will create the right story for consumers in Nigeria. Thank you very much.
Artificial intelligence is no longer a futuristic concept. It is transforming economies, industries, and societies in real time. According to PwC, AI could contribute as much as $15.7 trillion to the global economy by 2030, making it one of the greatest economic opportunities of this generation. Hello and welcome to another educative episode of Mind the Gap, where we bridge the gaps across different sectors. I am Iremofe Kofoworola. So today on this show, we'll be having a very educative and incisive discussion. Africa is projected to capture only a small share of the value when it comes to AI, because it significantly increases investment in digital infrastructure, and that's talking about AI talent, research, and indigenous innovation. Despite being home to one of the world's youngest and fastest growing populations, Africa remains largely a consumer of technology rather than a creator. The continent accounts for nearly 18% of the global population, yet contributes less than 1% of global AI research output. At the same time, rising smartphone adoption, expanding internet connectivity, digital payment systems, and a thriving startup ecosystem are creating new opportunities for African innovators and innovators, for people who innovate, who try to create things. So it's creating new opportunities for African innovators to develop solutions designed specifically for local realities. Nigeria continues to position itself as one of Africa's leading technology hubs, producing innovative companies across fintech, health tech, agri-tech, edu-tech, logistics, and e-commerce. Yet, widespread AI adoption remains constrained by inadequate infrastructure, limited access to quality data sets, shortages of skilled professionals, funding challenges, and growing concerns around trust, privacy, and regulation. These challenges raise important questions. How can Africa move from adapting foreign AI technologies to creating globally competitive solutions rooted in local problems? What role should governments, investors, academia, and the private sector play in building a sustainable AI ecosystem? And how can artificial intelligence drive inclusive economic growth without widening existing inequalities. Joining us to explore these critical issues is Nicholas Adesina, entrepreneur, product strategist, operations professional, and founder and chief executive officer of Betric AI, an AI-powered sports data and prediction platform. With extensive experience in venture building, product development, business operations, and AI innovation across Nigeria and the United Kingdom, he joins us to discuss closing the AI gap, building African solutions for African problems. Nicholas, welcome to Mind the Gap. Thank you so much for joining us on the conversation today.
Hello, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
All right. So to begin the conversation today, because we know that when it comes to artificial intelligence, many people have a lot of reservations. Many researches have been going on for years, and in Africa, we have also tried to adopt the use of AI. So AI definitely is dominating global conversations rather. Yet many people still associate it primarily with chat bots and automation. When it comes to that, then from your perspective, what does closing the AI gap truly mean for Africa, and why has this conversation become so urgent?
Well, I will start from my own perspective of what closing the gap means. I would say we have to start from the infrastructure. We have very limited to no data centers within Africa, with low power supply within this data sets. That's a very aspect. Then aside that, we also have to factor in the skills. I would suggest high investment in training stakeholders who have interest in building AI models. The next thing I would say would be, okay, one might have the skill, but if he lacks the information to act on the skill, then he just has potential. So there has to be great investment in passing these information to the right minds that need them. Creating opportunity is also another angle that we'll look at. In the terms of grants, building an enabling environment for those who have these skills to grow, instead of taking these skills outside the country, rather, or outside Africa, they put that skill back into the community. So the environment must be conducive enough for these professionals. The urgency for this within Africa would be, right now, we are more or less major consumers of these products. That's the AI. I believe this first decade, we should be behind in building. Because if we miss out this window as builders, building products that are more related to the African economy, to the African story, that are more related to our own African realities, rather than picking up solutions for researches that have been done for elsewhere. These solutions should be more genuine to the African story. I feel that is something that we should hold in serious regard at this point in time.
Oh, thank you so much for that insight. And looking at the fact that you mentioned that these gaps, they need to be closed, which is very important. And if you look at it, Africa faces unique challenges across healthcare, education, agriculture, finance, transportation, and sport. Why do you believe African entrepreneurs are better positioned than foreign companies to address and develop AI solutions that face African realities?
I would simply say it's because this is our story. We have lived these problems. We have lived this in this environment. We understand it better than foreigners or foreign investors would understand it to be. These foreign investors rely heavily on reports and data from consultants, whatever the case may be. But for an African investor who has lived this problem and who understands that this is a problem that exists within this community, I believe we would be able to provide more intentional solutions by, for example, looking at what we did with Betric AI. We understand how the consumer behaves within the country. We understand what it means. We understand the mindset behind gambling. And it's the same reason why we have also tried to there's a model that we're going to introduce in the version 2 of the product, whereby there's going to be support for those who have a certain level of addiction or lack control within this field. So I feel this is something that only those who have lived that experience and understand the problem that we face can have intentional solutions for them.
All right, yeah, I quite agree. You know, it's just like telling African stories. Those who can tell African stories are still Africans because it is our lived realities and we know these things better. So that is it.
Yeah.
But when we look at many startups, you know, they prioritize fundraising before validating actual customer problems. You know, we have actual customer problems that are peculiar to each customer. So from your experience in building technology ventures, what distinguishes products that solve genuine market needs from those driven primarily by hype? You know, we see many of these products sometimes. So what differentiates between genuine market needs, products who solve it, and, you know, products that are just driven primarily by hype?
I would, in my point of view, I would call this premature scaling, in the sense that you have developed the product based on your consumer needs and based on your consumer story and based on your consumer study. Then along the line, you now tend to deviate into focusing on what your stakeholders, investors, and the likes have influenced upon that product or that platform. I would say the best way is to not forget the roots of what started the whole venture in the first place. Yes, there is nothing wrong in you considering what your investors have invested upon your product and your venture. But then again, if you lose trail of the product itself, then you lose trail of your consumer needs. And mind you, consumer needs change. Consumers' behaviors change. So if you lose track of that, you lose track of the product. And if you lose track of the product, at the end of the day, you don't have anything to return back to these investors. So I feel builders, developers, founders should understand that the needs and the behavior of the consumer is highly crucial to the scaling up of the product.
Wow. Okay. Now let's talk about data, because you know that when it comes to data, it is just what data is just like the fuel for AI. Without data, there can't be AI. So data is often described as a field that powers artificial intelligence. So Nigeria continues to face challenges around data availability, and we've seen many cases like that when it comes to data that, you know, in Nigeria, it's more or less like we don't even have how we collect data and how we preserve data in that sense. So what are the challenges around data availability, data quality, privacy, which is very crucial, as well as infrastructure? So how can businesses overcome these limitations while they try to build reliable AI products?
This is a very relatable concern within my company or our company, Metric AI, because data it relies heavily on data, and this is the reason why the first concept of our product starts from international leagues. We focused more on international leagues for a start, simply because the African markets, the African communities underserved when it comes to data of football games. So I feel somebody or investors who are able to bridge that gap, who find the foundation within that gap, would be one of the very few and the first to start. And there is a huge gap there that can be invested upon, because for how Metric AI functions, we take data through odds API from past data of football games. The AI then analyzes these games to give you the best probable cause or best probable result of that game based on previous data. Now, there's a whole lot of data set being gathered here, which you have to be mindful of how this data is being regulated and how this data is being stored. You have to have strong ground. You have to have strong ground rules in place to make sure that you obey data regulations within the community you operate. For example, our company is very keen on complying with regulatory systems that enforce data regulations within Africa and Nigeria in particular. Because if you don't have that, then you lose your integrity to your consumers. Because having that integrity is still part of the product you produce. So data has become a very, very huge commodity in this time and day because it boils down to research. For example, even if at all we want to improve, or when we decide, okay, we want to improve our products in Metric AI, we still have to fall back to previous data of customers' behavior. These policies are things that have to be entrenched within every company operating within the system. So I would say you have to understand how to manage data and understand the importance of regulating this data within each community.
Yeah, so that is very crucial because you mentioned customer integrity, and that is something that yes, it leads to customer trust because they want to trust with their data. Everybody loves their privacy, and at the end of the day, if my data is being collected, so there must be something to ensure that yes, I trust you enough to give out my data and all that. So when you look at consumers generally, consumer trust remains one of the biggest barriers to AI adoption, because how well can we trust these investors? How well can we trust even these brands or organizations willing to adopt all of this data? So many people, as they are concerned about misinformation, privacy, algorithm bias, and job displacement. So what practical steps should innovators and regulators take to build public confidence in AI powered solutions, especially when it comes to innovations?
The government and stakeholders involved should create an enabling environment whereby consumers and developers, builders are able to operate and understand each other. Instead of the government or regulatory bodies institutionalizing laws that place constraint on all actors, the consumer and the developer and the builder. Why not involve or impose certifications, audits that really is well invested on the outcome of what the product delivers to its consumers, rather than putting in constraints that build about limitations that is difficult for these builders to operate. So there should be in-house audits. Some African countries are already getting involved in things like this. Even in Nigeria, there's been a safe space whereby people are being audited rigorously before they can operate. So you end up getting certifications to make sure that, okay, this is something that has been well regulated. As to the angle of job displacement, this is really a scare. But the thing is, I would, from my own perspective, I feel like people are looking at AI from the wrong angle. AI should be seen as something that augments the performance of a professional, rather than something that replaces it. So it should be something that improves the performance of the professional, rather than something that you just said, I would rather use this than this person. So I feel that's the best way to look at it. Thank you.
All right, so thank you for that insight. And I just believe governments and private enterprise, they can work accordingly to ensure that yes, everything goes smooth, because it takes both, not just the governments, investors as well who want to be part of this, also innovators who want to just be a part of it. So everybody needs to ensure that all hands are on deck to ensure yes, we can get the delivered results. So that leads to another question I would want to ask when you look at the Africa's startup ecosystem, because government is fully involved in it, as well as private enterprise as well when it comes to the
Yes.
startup ecosystem. So Africa's startup ecosystem has grown significantly over the past decade, yet many promising ventures struggle to scale beyond their first markets. You see cases of people like that, whereby after the first market, they struggle to scale beyond that. So what operational leadership or strategic mistakes are commonly common in Africa setups, and what mistakes prevent them from achieving sustainable growth?
It boils down to, like I said before, premature scaling, in the sense that startups forget the root cause of the problem. If they don't put deep research into consumer behavior and consumer growth, because these are things that happen within different stages of having a product. I will reiterate again that a product being built is not just built for the sake of the investor or the stakeholders alone. It's being built because of you're trying to solve a problem of a consumer or of a user. So there should be ongoing development of research to understand how the consumer behaves towards certain products. This boils down to how Metric AI is also operating. We're not just sticking to analyzing data of past games to give you tier selections. We are focusing on building what you can gain or maximize from the users. It's about how you can also maximize the standard of the user, in the sense that we are checking in to make sure that this platform doesn't become too addictive to the point whereby you have no control over it. So a user who understands that, oh, this is a platform that has me in mind, would want to come back to this platform where his usage is being regulated and understood. So I would advise, or from my perspective, I would say that understanding the consumer behavior as time goes on and as the code moves from one stage to the next, and not just putting heavy concern on what the investors are trying to gain out of that product.
Yeah, it's good that you have to reiterate that. It's because many startups they are more concerned about their own interest. Sometimes they forget that it's all about the interest of the consumers. And like you rightly said, they need to check. There has to be a check on all of these things at the end of the day, rather than you just being more concerned about your investors. So that leads to the next question that I want to ask, because if you look at the chain of all these questions, the series of questions being asked, they are related one way or the other. So looking at the fact that several African governments are developing national AI strategies and digital policies, in your opinion, how can policy makers strike the right balance between encouraging innovation and ensuring responsible AI governance?
So, amongst working with regulatory bodies like governments and promoting AI governance within the African community, I would say making an environment that enables builders to operate freely, but nonetheless having audit systems within these companies to how they operate and what the outcome of their product would be is something that should be heavily invested upon. Understanding how these data are stored, and I would also reiterate the fact that government should invest heavily on data centers within African community. This prevents us from taking our data from our community outside to the open world, and not just having those data within our community or our region. Investing heavily on the protection and the security of those data, and the medium whereby it's regular supply of that data, because it's one thing for you to regulate the operations of of startups or of developed established business. It's also another thing for you to always give them the certain level of assurance that we also have things in place to make you more comfortable and operate freely. So this there comes the regular supply of data centers and security of these data centers. So these are some that I would highlight.
All right, you've mentioned the security of data, and also you mentioned the fact that sometimes when it comes to skilled professionals, sometimes we have this kind of exports to other regions. We have
Yeah.
professionals leaving Nigeria here, going outside, they travel outside the shores of Nigeria, and, they become brilliant minds over there. You've raised some of these points. So that brings to this question that I would want to ask, because if you look at it critically, Africa possesses one of the world's largest pools of young talent. And, we see this happening many times whereby skilled AI professionals, they relocate abroad. Now, let us look beyond the funding. You've mentioned so many things government needs to do, as well as, stakeholders from different quarters. But how can we then ensure that when it comes to our education, when it comes to universities, when it comes to tertiary institutions, how can they ensure that they inculcate all these things, AI, the use of AI and the teaching of AI, to ensure that, yes, we have world-class AI engineers, researchers, and product builders?
I can relate to this personally because I'm also an expert to UK, building a product, Patrick AI, for